Welcome everyone to the very first session of the Leadership Speaker Series. I am so excited. In times of uncertainty and all of this weirdness that is going on in the world, I'm just so happy for technology to allow us to do something like this. The Leadership Speaker Series was developed not just to give you tools for your performer tool belt or maybe a teacher tool belt, but it's a way to get to know some of our team members that you typically wouldn't get to know this way. So I'm so excited, and to start it off with Charna is a treat, an absolute treat. So without further ado, Charna, welcome.
Woo! Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more too. This is going to be fun. I love it. So you sent me all sorts of pictures for your Instagram posts. They were amazing, but I did not know that you had been performing for that long. So when did you start performing? In what capacity? Tell us a little bit about the beginning of your performance background.
So I just love that I got to do that. P.S. I'm going to we started and I'm going on a tangent. You guys going through old photos just gave me all the life. I was like, it really made me think about my students actually. And like, it took me back through high school and even before. I sent you too many. Sorry, Katie Jo, but I was living for them all. So my mom owned a dance studio from the time she was 18. So by the time I was born, she had a pretty substantial dance studio going. And it also, the main focus was dance, but we also did some theater, musical theater, voice classes, things like that. So I literally have, probably since I could walk, been in a dance class. Tap was my favorite by far when I was younger. And then my first musical that I did at like a regional level in a youth capacity, I was in 5th grade. And so I had always had that love there. Definitely dance was my foundation. And then when I did my first musical, as many of you probably feel, you're like, this is my life. I love this. I don't want to do anything else. These are my people. And that first production was Annie, of course. What other show do you do here in 5th grade? And I met my friends who are my girlfriends today in that production of Annie in 5th grade. And we didn't all go to the same high school. We didn't all go to the same college. We all live all over the country now. But that theater, connection has kept us together. So I started as a dancer and performer when I was young. I grew up in Vista, which is in North County, San Diego, for those of you that don't know. And I got connected with the Moonlight Amphitheater when I was really young. If you have never been down there, obviously right now it's closed. It's a fabulous, fabulous organization. And I owe a lot of what I know and how I grew and all the things I learned from that organization. They had a wonderful youth organization that I went through. I continued to dance at my mom's dance studio. I continued to dance through high school on our dance team. I was a thespian. I was in drama club. I was in our show choir, which for people my age, show choir was the jam when we were in high school. And I continued that all through high school. And I started performing for paid gigs and for professional stuff in high school because, at Moonlight, they would bring us, they really kind of brought their people up through the program. So by the time I was in 9th grade, I was working every summer and being paid to do theater, and I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. It was so fun. At the end of high school, I decided, I always thought I wanted to be a performer, but I decided I wanted to kind of take a different route. I found a love for journalism. And so I kind of took, not a hiatus, but my path for college turned to film and television and broadcast journalism and news writing and all of that. And I still performed through college a lot, but for fun, and was really focused on my theater, my film career, and my being like a news anchor and a news reporter. And then, do you want me to continue on to like recent stuff and kind of how I got to where I am now? Okay.
Keep on sharing.
I took dance through college, which was really funny because dance in college is super different than dance anywhere else. And I remember, I don't know, it wasn't the same. Everyone just like shows up and you're like, I'm dancing, at least for me. I went to Chapman. And I enjoyed it, but I really enjoyed the outside theater aspect. So I didn't really do much theater in college on my campus. I really focused on film, focused on TV, news reporting, and then I did a lot of stuff locally and regionally out in Riverside, still down in San Diego, out at Candlelight. I really just tried to get into places around here within driving distance and continue to perform. And I was going to be a journalist. I was going to be a news reporter, and I was so jazzed. And I did an internship, and I had my resume tape. Yeah, it was a tape back then because we had tapes because I'm old. And I sent them all out to all these places. And it was right around the time that I met my now husband. And so we like had just met each other, and I was like, I'm gonna go be, you know, the next news anchor. And if you know anything about news, you have to go to like Podunk, Iowa to start being a news reporter, or Oklahoma or Kansas or anywhere. And it is not like Broadway where you can just audition and like they like you. It is a completely different thing where you literally have to start at the bottom of the market, you know, ladder and go up. But I was ready. I was gonna go do it. And then I met my husband, but I didn't know he was going to be my husband. And I sent out all my tapes, and everyone was like, yeah, come to Kansas. And then I was like, I don't want to leave. So I had to make a choice. I was like, well, I don't know. So I kind of put a pin in it. I know we say that. And I started working an office job, and I was teaching dance at a dance studio. And I kind of fell into OSHA, which those of you who know me well, and all of you on here, I think do. That's where I, you know, with Spotlight as well, OSHA is my other position that I hold. And I've never wanted to be a teacher in my entire life. And all my students always laugh when I say that, but it is 100% true. I had no desire ever in my entire youth to ever be a teacher. My mom was a teacher. I loved watching her. I wanted to be a news reporter or a performer. And Mr. Garitano, Casey Garitano, who works at OSHA, we performed in a show together. I was working at like an office with my husband, which is where I met my husband. And he was like, hey, I work at this school called OSHA. I didn't even know what it was. And I was still performing here and there. Like my last big role I did was Peter Pan. I think I hadn't done Peter Pan yet. I was almost there. And he was like, hey, come sub a class for me. And I'm like, I don't want to be a teacher. Like, I just don't. No, thanks. And I went in and I subbed a class, and you guys, you know, you hear these moments. I walked out of the class and I was like, well, shoot, like, I liked that. And I just had this moment of like, well, maybe my path, and I tell this to a lot of my juniors and seniors, if my older kids, you know, your path is what you think it's going to be, and it can take a complete left or right turn, and you have to be open to that. And so I talked it over with my then, you know, boyfriend, who's now my husband. And I'm like, what do you think? And he's like, just try it. If you know Jerry, he's like, yeah, do it, you know? So I started teaching broadcast journalism at OSHA. And it was funny because they didn't know that I had all this other background. So they hired me as a broadcast journalism teacher, which is still my favorite class to teach. And Heather Stafford was the conservatory director when I was there before I stepped in. And she found out one day that I was doing Peter Pan. And she's like, if you know Heather Stafford, some of you on here do. She was like, I'm sorry, what, aren't you a broadcasting newsy lady thing, you know? And I was like, well, yeah, but I have a huge background in theater and dance and voice. And she came to see me at the show, and then she was all mad. She's like, why didn't you tell me you could do all this? So then I was just inundated with, will you direct our musical? Will you teach a tap class? Can you teach a voice class? And it literally was like a snowball effect from there. And so I had my directing debut at OSHA. It's where I've had all of my directorial experience, OSHA and the Music Room. I did a lot of youth theater at the Music Room. And really, it's like I've grown over the last 15 years there in so many ways. Like our first show was Schoolhouse Rock. Y'all are familiar with Conjunction Junction, what's your function? Yes, Ron. Oh, Alyssa Tadeo just came on. Hi. So it was like very little, and it was a really, really great journey for me because I could start small and learn and tweak and change and use the people and the resources at OSHA and at Music Room to really help me. And I found such a love for sharing my talents with younger people. I mean, no, I don't want to say I lost the desire to perform. I would still love to perform, and I've done some benefits here and there and a few things, but that desire to want to give to kids totally just overtook my desire to want to be a performer. My younger sister is a performer. That's what she does. And I think hearing her stories and going to see her shows in New York or Chicago has helped me kind of feel that part of the business too. And so people always ask, do you miss it? Are you sad that you didn't keep performing? And I'm really not. I really, really, really love where I am, and seeing kids get it. And then I'm like getting emotional. I'm serious, seeing those friendships that the kids make and watching them and being like, that was me, and I am able to give this to them is huge, 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 huge. So I kind of went like dance, theater, maybe I'm going to be a news reporter. I'm also doing theater, and now I'm going to direct and be a teacher. And it kind of just went in that direction. And I'm so grateful that it did. I'm so grateful that I didn't move to Kansas or wherever I was going to be, like reporting about the new flagpole at the school or something. Cause I could have been. And if you've seen any of my students on here, if you've seen my reel that I sent out, it's hysterical. So yeah, and then now to step into this new role in the last, several years at Spotlight as artistic director, and then as conservatory director at OSHA, it's a whole new ballgame. But that's kind of like my overall journey in the Cliff's Notes version. And it's been awesome. I'm serious. There are things along the way that are challenging or hurdles that you get over, but I'm grateful for all of them because I've learned something from every single one of them, I hope. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So you are Director of Integrated Arts and Musical Theater Conservatory. What does that all entail? Before we get into the spotlight things, we got to know what you're doing on the side. No, there's like, you've got two full plates. Tell us, what does that all entail?
So yeah, so I'm the director of the Integrated Arts Conservatory, which is separate from musical theater. So the great Scotty Barnhart is the director of MT, who is like my absolute partner in crime over there, and I just adore him. So I direct the Conservatory Integrated Arts, and Integrated Arts, a lot of my kiddos are on here, and some of my new kiddos that are going to be with me next year, and I'm so excited. Hi. I say that we're a mini OSHA. So if you've been at OSHA or you've heard me talk, you can take a nap for a second. We essentially do everything. IA students do everything. And every single year I am blown away at the talent of these children and the diversity. So between 7th and 12th grade, we have 240 students in our conservatory at OSHA. And between 7th and 12th grade, they take everything from visual arts, painting, drawing, graphic design, acting, improv, broadcast journalism, musical theater, what am I missing? Probably creative writing, film, music theory, and they have the opportunity to audition for musicals and plays, and we do a fine art showcase. Some of their visual art blows my mind because I cannot draw to save my life. It's one thing I cannot do. So we have all these classes, and I'm in charge of the entire conservatory. So I have 32 teachers under me, which I know Cassie's on here. I don't know if anyone else is on here. And it's a huge, huge Jenga puzzle is how I like to describe my job. It's managing all my teachers, making sure they're feeling supported. It's making sure our curriculum is in line with what we want in our conservatory, what the outcomes are for our students. Which, if you are the head of the musical theater conservatory, your curriculum is musical theater. If you're the head of the visual art conservatory, your curriculum is visual art. If you're the head of integrated arts, your curriculum is blah, 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 blah. It's like everything. And so it's a lot. And I do utilize a lot of my coworkers. I don't have a visual art background, so I've had to learn a lot about that. Film I do, dance, I have huge musical theater, voice, all of that. I taught 4 years at OSHA in the Musical Theater Conservatory and the Integrated Arts Conservatory. But now I'm like the mama bear for all the integrated arts teachers and students. And so it has a lot of amazing things, but it did come with some surprises. I think I missed the classroom a lot. And those of you who are on here who are current OSHA students or faculty, I'd always be like, can someone come visit me in my office? Like, I'm just like here typing away a million emails, like, I'll give you candy or a hug, like come by and see me. I really missed that connection with the students. So I took 1 year away from teaching. And then this past year I went back into the classroom because I wanted to feel connected. I continue to direct our high school musicals and choreograph. I did the middle school and high school musicals for a really long time, and it was great because I got to really get to know the students. But I had to take a step back this year and say, Charna, you are not Superwoman. You cannot do everything. You have people at your disposal. And so I see Katie on here, Miss Katie Perry, I hired this year to direct our middle school musical. And I'm learning how to delegate and give up some things that I know I really want to do, but know that other people can step in and we can work together, and I can celebrate other people's artistic passions. So it's a lot of things that I do. I mean, I'm talking from the boring emailing parents and dealing with, my lovely parents, or I love your smile, Katie Jo. There's great emails too, believe me. Or, helping organize our buddy week, or running our, application process, or going into classrooms and helping teachers how do we do this? And then teaching my own class and directing shows. And it's like, I think I need that kind of job because I'm definitely not a sit, if you know me, I'm not a sit and just be person. So I do a lot. I wear a lot of hats, but I do enjoy it very much so.
I love that. And one of those hats becomes the artistic director at Spotlight. Oh my gosh, so busy. How did you get involved with Spotlight, and what, artistic director, we say that term a lot, but what does that really mean, and what does that job entail?
Right. That's like a really, it's funny, right? Because it could be a lot of things, honestly. So how I got introduced to Spotlight is actually a great story, and I love it because I think this is how a lot of things happen in this world of theater and this industry. Teaching at OSHA, and I was directing shows at the Music Room, which is another performing arts dance studio in Orange County. It's in the city of Orange. And I'm teaching in the hallway at OSHA. I don't know, somebody said something about, oh, Yorba into Spotlight Theater Company. I'm like, oh, I've heard of them. They're like, oh, we're auditioning for some show. I can't remember which one. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And I kind of social media wasn't huge yet then. So I remember asking kids, oh yeah, we love that place, and it's like a family. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like Integrated Arts and like Music Room. I'm curious. So then the next week I hear that the woman who, runs Spotlight is teaching at OSHA. And I'm like, wait, what's happening? Like, what? So I'm literally in the break room. I've never met this woman, Andrea, for those of you who know Andrea. I've never met her before in my life. I'd seen one Spotlight show, Hairspray. And yes, Ron. And I was sitting in the break room, and this woman sitting next to me, and she's like, are you Charna Lopez? And I was like, oh no, what did I do? I had no idea who she was. And I was like, yeah, should I say yeah? Yes. So I said, yes, and it was Andrea. And she said, I'm Andrea Fouts, nice to meet you. And I said, oh, hi, nice to meet you. I didn't know who she was. And then she introduced herself, and we got to talking, and she said, hey, how would you like to come direct something for Spotlight? I mean, I had known her for 5 minutes. It was the most crazy thing in the entire world. And I was like, do you know me? She's like, well, I've seen a lot of the shows here at OSHA. I've seen what you do. The kids talk about you, I'm like, okay. So that's what got me in to come co-direct a couple things. I started with Once on This Island, Ronald, Jenny. And I truly enjoyed it. I did. The family feel of Spotlight was there. It's the first time I met Elise. And then, it kind of just went on from there. I helped with School of Rock, and we kind of went forward. And right before School of Rock, Andrea came to me, and, she said she was looking for somebody to take over the company. And I was thinking she was going to ask me my opinion of who would be good, and this and that. And I was like, yeah, well, oh, I'm sorry, and for reasons of her own, she needed to step away. And so I was like, okay, yeah, well, I don't really know anyone who wants to do that right now or whatever. And she's like, well, how about you? And I was like, it was really out of the blue. And at the time I was a teacher at OSHA. I didn't have the position I have now, but I had applied for it. And so it was this very tricky, do I divulge that to her? Do I not? And I finally was just upfront and honest with her. And I said, look, I would die to take over this company and really focus on it. But I have to be real with you. I could eventually be taking over this position at OSHA, and I don't know what that's going to look like for my time. So she just said, well, let's just cross that bridge when we get there. We'll figure it out. And as you know, Katie Jo, you lived through that transition with me. And it was a huge change, because when I did step into Spotlight, I was like 3,000,000%, guns blazing. We're going to do all this stuff. And then I really had to reevaluate once I was given the role at OSHA. But I think that's where having a great team, Katie Jo, Elise, anybody who on here who has ever worked at Spotlight or does work there, has been a huge, huge blessing, because that's the only way it's going to work. So as an artistic director, I think it's a huge gambit of things that you do, right? You could go from kind of now where I sit as an artistic director. I help make decisions up here. And then it's like, you know, by the time we get down the day-to-day, obviously it's you, Katie Jo, more so than anyone else now. But it's helping decide our season, for sure, is a big one where we spend a lot of time, you and I and Elise, talking about what we want to do for our production season. Spotlight is really well known for their productions and the quality and the caliber of their productions. So we focus a lot on that. I also, you know, we discuss who we want to hire, who would be a good addition to the Spotlight family, what works in our culture at Spotlight. I get to talk with you and our other, you know, creatives about the vision for things. We do the boring stuff too, like where's a theater? Someone give me a theater, you know, that's always exciting. But yeah, it's kind of that background stuff. And for a while I was in directing shows a lot, and then I scaled back to doing like 2 a year, and now it's just summer, which has been really great because I can balance my time and my efforts. But yeah, it's kind of just checking in. And I don't know, Katie Jo, it's funny because you could probably chime in too. It's like almost like we're going to talk about all this, and then now let's check in with Charna, you know, and let's talk. And it works really well because kind of the minutia of things that you have to go through, you kind of get all that out by the time I'm brought into the conversation. And then I'm kind of just like, yes, or let's rethink, or how about this, you know, and we kind of talk through it that way. We're in such a strange time right now that I feel like my job as an artistic director is just to be able to have a Zoom call with you so we're not all pulling our hair out. But in normal circumstances, it's a lot of that. How much are we going to pay people? Which is a strange side of a business when you've been a performer and a director for a long time that you don't really think about. That was a big thing for me, where it was like, oh, we really need to look at, I do all the budget at OSHA too for our conservatory. So that was a huge, a new thing for me to learn taking over these roles, budgeting. And thank goodness for Elise, because Elise, I know she's on here listening. She is so great on the business side of things and has been really helpful in helping with all of that. But yeah, it's kind of those things you don't think about. How, you know, how much can we pay people? How much is the theater? What can we afford? This show costs $6,000 to produce just for licensing. Okay, we're going to choose this show instead. This show, we have to have live music, or I'm not going to do the show without live music, then we're going to do this show. Kind of those things of where, like, the strange things that happen behind the scenes, and then it's like, here's what we do. So it's a lot of little things here and there. I think I've grown so much in the past 4 or 5 years in learning a lot of different management type of things. Still learning, for sure. I also think a big part of it, and Katie Jo, I know we talk about this a lot, and a lot of my teachers who deal with parents or get to talk with public or people, you have to be a people person. And I think a lot of it is trying to get to know my families at OSHA, trying to get to know the cast members' families when I do a show at Spotlight. There's so many kids that come through Spotlight. It is tricky for me to know them all, especially now. But connecting with them and making sure people feel like they're part of a family. I grew up in a dance studio and a theater company that's how I felt. And like I said, those people are my friends still to this day. We were all in each other's weddings, you know, like I want to create that. And that's something that I put at the top of my list in any role that I have. If I'm directing, if I'm doing my OSHA conservatory director job, artistic director, you know, whatever it may be, I think that is such a great foundation for any organization. That's what I hope we feel.
I agree so much, so much. So we're so thankful that you still will do some directing on over at Spotlight. A lot of yes, we love it, we love it, and I'm sure a lot of our Spotlight regulars know you best, the director for Once Upon a Mattress, Chicago, Sideshow, Newsies, some of our largest productions we've ever done, but they're all very different. So I think a lot of us are interested in how do you pick shows? How does that process start?
That's a great question. I talk about it a lot, like with my students at OSHA, but that's interesting because I don't think parents get to hear that. So I hope there's some parents on here or fellow teachers. I have a couple different ways that I look at things. I really like to do new things that I haven't done before. I get bored. So if I just did Seussical somewhere, I don't want to do Seussical again in 3 years, or I don't want to do Seussical and then Seussical and then Seussical because I know it and I'm lazy. It is a big pet peeve of mine, and a lot of people who work with me know this. I like to try new things. I like to do things that are challenging for myself as well as the students. I think anybody who's been in a show with me on here, I like when we get into rehearsal and I'm like, guys, this is hard. Like, and we can have a moment together of trying to figure something out. I'm going to take Sideshow as an example. Miss Jenny's on here. I really was excited to take that show on. It is a very, very deep show with a lot of emotion. And to do that with teenagers, I was excited. I was not scared. I was excited. So I think picking something that maybe is not your standard, show that you would expect from a youth theater, number one. Number two, I do look at content, and I do look at how it can be produced on a stage with kids. So Chicago for me was a huge, I had to sit down and I had to go through it. I had just come back from seeing my sister perform it at Drury Lane in Chicago. And I fell in love with it all over again because I personally don't enjoy the original or the newer one that's out. And they did it the original way with all the vaudevillian, like 20s dresses and stuff. And it was so great. And then I came home and I'm like, I want to do Chicago. But we can't do it like that because, we are 15 and 16. So I look at how things can be transformed onto our stage. I look at what kids are into. Newsies was like that for sure. I'm going to be honest, both Addams Family and Newsies, I wasn't a really big fan of those shows until I got into the process of it. Honestly, Addams Family was one of my least favorite shows I had ever seen. And when we were asked to do it at OSHA, I was like, oh, here we go. And then going through the process of it and I don't know, it's the work, right? It's like having a vision and then working with kids too, and they're just brilliant and they bring all this amazingness to the stage, and then you fall in love with it and you find heart and stories and any emotions that you didn't see when you watched it, that then I really focus on those. So I just watched Addams Family. I'm not going to say where, this was years ago, and it was awful. I would have left at intermission had I not known somebody in the show. It was not good. And I left being like, am I really going to direct and produce this show next year? And then when we got into the process, I have a couple kids on here who were in Addams Family. I'd find that moment in the show that I didn't like when I saw it. And I'm like, all right, we're going to fix this. We're going to change this. We're going to find something to make this different. I like trying to think outside of the box while still giving, if it's a more classic traditional show, I like to give, I want to give, not credit, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to honor it. That's what I'm looking for. I want to honor that originality. There are some shows I've done where Anything Goes would have been one of them. Crazy for You is another one. A Chorus Line, these shows that you want to honor that originality, but then kind of mix it up. I like thinking outside the box with scenery. I think this is how my brain thinks. I'm like, what can my husband build? Right? What? Oh, can't do that show. With Newsies, it was a team feeling. Hey guys, what do you think about Newsies? And when Maddie and Parker and Christopher and Elise and Katie Jo are like, yeah, it gives me that spirit. I do also look at the students we have. I do. There's always 3 or 4 or 10 kids who come into the audition room that I'm like, who are you and where'd you come from? Thank you for showing up. Here's your role. But for the most part, you know, we know our students, we know our kids, and I'm like, the kids who've maybe put in a lot of time, and I would love to have some more opportunity for them to step up to the plate. I'm going to use, Jeffrey Lindner is on here. So I'm going to use, Jeffrey, can I use you for a second? Okay, cool. So this year we did All Shook Up at OSHA, and another show I was not that excited about in the beginning. Really love Elvis, love the music, love 12th Night, honestly, love it, but I wasn't jazzed. But it was a show that had roles for my students there that I knew they could be featured. And Jeffrey Lindner is a junior at OSHA. If you guys don't know him, he's right there. You can wave, Jeffrey, if people can see you. I've known Jeffrey for a long time, and Jeffrey's put in so much work at OSHA and is always my like standout featured dancer, my standout guy with the one line that'll rock it. And I just knew there was an opportunity in this show for him to have a role along with a few other kids, seniors. And it was such a rewarding opportunity for me to watch not only Jeffrey, but some of these other students that had put in so much time finally take that moment, you know, and walking alongside them through that and being like, yes, this is what it's all about. This is why you rock your ensemble roles and you put in the work and you learn, because then Miss Lopez picks a show that's for you to like be amazing in a role. And I think I really do look at that. I did long ago quit, and Katie Jo, if you know me, I will talk for 9 hours. So if I'm talking too much, shut me up.
Okay.
I long ago stopped casting in my head, because I used to do that when I was a younger director. I would be like, oh, this show would be great because so-and-so can play this, so-and-so can play that, so-and-so can play this. And then I would be really upset when I would get through the audition and callback process and it wasn't working out the way I wanted. I'm like, why is this person so much better? And I get really frustrated. And that was like, 20-something-year-old me. And I learned real quickly to just keep an open mind, because students grow immensely in like a matter of months. Students do their homework, whereas before they were like Yahoo number 3, and I had to like be like, can you focus, my love? And then they're like, I learned my stuff, I know my stuff, I worked my character, and so the growth of children, you just can't put that into a format. And also the way they are with each other. So a thing I really love about acting, which is what a lot of us are missing right now with this, is that connection with people, right? And the interaction with people. And callbacks are my favorite, because you put someone up there with somebody else and you're like, oh, I thought that would work. That doesn't work. Okay, next. Wait, what? Yes. And you see it, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, and you just get so excited. And so I think in picking shows, it's a combination of a million things, but I think there are some business sides to it. Financially, what can we do? There are some personal sides to it. What do I feel connected to, and what have I not done because I don't want to be bored or revamp something? What's going to be a challenge to our students? What are parents going to like to watch? That's a huge one for me, honestly, because my children, you're on the stage, but your parents are sitting watching it. So, there's some students that come to me and they're like, I really want to do the show. And I'm like, you can do that when you become a director. Because there are things that I just personally don't feel like the community, our parents, our families, our people would be entertained by or would want to see. I also think a combination. I know when I came to Spotlight, Spotlight was pretty well known for doing shows that like have just come out, which I think is fabulous. And we're still kind of on that, like, let's jump on this because we want to do it and we want to offer this. But I come from a really like standard theater background where you learn the classics, you do the like Oklahomas and the Sound of Musics and the Music Mans, because you learn something from that too. And I think that it's a good thing to balance it out. And if any of my students are in here, we've had that conversation where I know you all want to do Beetlejuice, but we also may need to do a Music Man someday. Okay. So like, it's just that kind of like understanding. And I'm an old person for a lot of my kiddos in here. I know I don't feel old, but I know I am old, like, but I learned some of my greatest lessons about theater and performing and how to navigate stuff and how to create a character, being in an ensemble of a show that I thought I wouldn't like. And really like swallowing my pride and being like, I didn't get the role. Ooh, I really am upset. I'm going to go be mad in my room. And then I'm going to come out and I'm going to go into rehearsal and I'm going to be the best darn ensemble member number 5 that anyone's ever seen. And I think just that attitude helps you. I totally went on 7 tangents, but that's how I pick a show.
I love that. I love it. No, it was great. And casting the show is huge. And I think that's where a lot of our performers, especially our younger performers, want to know the inside scoop, what's going on the other side of that table. So I'm combining 2 questions here. I have a submitted question from Emma Alberto. I see you, Emma. What are some things that directors look for when casting? And on top of that, what is something on a resume that just pops? Like, what should we be taking as performers to have on our resume? Classes, privates, what's important?
Good. Okay, I'm going to start with the resume, actually. I think it's important to be well-rounded. I think that if you have too much of one thing on your resume and you're at one theater company, and it's funny I'm saying this because I don't want any of you to go anywhere else, stay with us, but it's important to work with different people. If you have the same director listed on every single show and you've been the lead, I'm like, well, that person really likes you and maybe you're talented, but you haven't put yourself out there. And that doesn't necessarily mean different theater companies. You could do theater at your school. You could do theater at one theater company with different directors. You can take different classes. I think there's a huge misconception, and maybe not so much anymore, because I think in recent years, musical theater has really shown how much dance is an integral part of musical theater. But I think for a long time, with me growing up, and especially when I was performing right out of college and in college, there was this feeling of if I can sing my face off and if I can come in and act, I got it. And now we're at a point where it's like, you don't really got it anymore because you need to be able to dance. And my sister is a perfect testament of this, where my sister's just a little younger than me, but she performs regularly and at the professional level. And she says the up and coming youngsters, because she's now old, she's 32 and she's now old in the Broadway world. She says these kids are triple threats, that they've now, like, colleges are learning, preparatory programs are learning that dance is really important. So I look for somebody who's had dance. It doesn't mean you need to be the best dancer. Those of you who've done any shows with me, my little shoops over there, like, you don't need to be the best. You need to have dance experience, because I think that the attitude of I can belt my face off is only going to get you so far. So in terms of a resume, I think well-rounded, especially for musical theater, is huge. I think seeing that kids have done ensemble work is huge for me too. Any of my students in here, I always talk about being part of an ensemble is a far greater challenge than being the lead in a show. And I know they don't like to hear that, because I didn't like to hear it when I was little. And I remember looking at my directors being like, okay, thanks. I just wanted the role. Why didn't I get Belle? But it's true. I think doing different things and seeing that on kids' resumes. I like when kids include things that are not theatrical related on their resumes. It depends on what you're going for, but I like it when they give me like other hobbies at the bottom or talents. I'll ask people, if you guys have ever talked to Megan Hilty, she did a masterclass at OSHA last year. She talks about how she went into one audition. Do you remember this, Jeffrey, or Elise, whoever's there? And on her special talents, it says she can talk like a chicken or sing like a chicken. And she's like, it's always just something funny that I did. And then she went into an audition and they asked her to do it. And they're like, that's what got her the role. Because she had no fear. Of course, she's fierce. But she had no fear of just being like, okay, yeah, I'll sing like a chicken. It's just something that sets you apart from people on your resume. And being well-rounded, for sure. Even if you're just starting out. I'm taking one musical theater dance class because I'm learning this. I'm taking voice. Private lessons are good. I took no private voice lessons when I was younger, 0. I didn't take any sort of one-on-one vocal training until I was in college. So I think it's really important, if you have the means to do it, if you have teachers like our fabulous teachers at Spotlight at your disposal to do it, do it. But you can learn a lot from singing in choir at your school. You can learn a lot from singing in an ensemble and a musical. But I do think, especially in our day and age right now, with all of the Broadway shows that are coming out and where all of that music sits, it is very important for students to learn proper singing technique, because we get the kids coming in that want to sing, I don't know. I have like 1,000 songs in my head that I'm like, please don't try and sing that.
Let it go.
How about Wicked? Like, no, just let's not try and belt out, you know, Defying Gravity when you don't know how to do that properly, right? So I think learning proper technique is huge. And if you don't have proper technique, then try and stay, you know, around songs and selections that are comfortable, and you're not trying to just, you know, be the next Idina Menzel or Sutton Foster or whoever you want to be. So yeah, that's resume. And then what was the other part about auditioning or casting? What was it?
Like, what do you look for when, so I'm a performer who wants to get a lead in a spotlight show. What do you look for?
So I'm kind of old school. I really think that I could probably I hate saying make a decision, but I can get an impression from you before you even open your mouth. So I think that that's huge for me. I've really learned a lot going through the process at OSHA because we have kids who are so diverse. Spotlight, everyone's like, I'm a singer and I'm a this, and we're all kind of the same. The way you come in, are you pleasant? Are you dressed nicely? Did you put in some effort? You don't need to be wearing a ball gown or a tux, but like, did you, are you not wearing your running clothes or your workout clothes? Have you put thought into it? Are you pleasant? Are you respectful? I think one of my biggest red flags is when I have kids who come in with their friends on the side in those 10 seats and they're chatting or they're laughing or they're whatever. And it's not because they don't like the kid that's auditioning. They're just socializing, but it irks me to no end. And I think that's huge because your behavior and the way you treat people is going to take you so much further in this life than any talent you have, hands down, in anything you do, outside of theater, in theater. So I love when kids say thank you. I love when kids say hello. Of course the kids that know me say hello, they know me, but I like when it's like, oh, hi, hello. So that's number one, kind of that first impression, being prepared, smiling. And I also think be yourself. Okay. If choose an audition song that is going to be good for you. I think so many students get caught up in, I love it, because I'm sure any teacher on here, any of my musical directors, the second a show gets announced that there's auditions, it's like all the texts of like, what Pasek and Paul song can I sing? What, Gershwin song can I sing? And it's like, okay, I want you to just take a breath. Like, whoa. Because I think everyone just wants to have the leg up. Sing something that you sing well, because if you try and sing a Gershwin song that you are not good at, it's not going to do you any good. So, I think picking a good song and maybe having a couple options and asking, there's no harm in asking your teachers. If you don't take private voice lessons, ask. I would say stay away from the internet, because what ends up happening, you guys, is you Google best Gershwin song to sing for Crazy for You. And then guess what? Everybody sings that song. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. Someone to watch over me. Great. So I think it's like, Ron, if you actually sang that song, I apologize. But it's true. Finding something that is not the first 5 on the Google list. Finding something that not only can you sing well, that you understand what you're singing. Because I'm finding nowadays we have numerous students and people who audition who have the talent that I never had when I was younger. They have no idea what they're singing about. And they come in and they're like, yes, I'm a rock star. Listen to my high F. And then you're like, do you even know what you just said? I think that singing, then go be a recording artist, or maybe even not, because even a recording artist, you have to have a heart. You have to know what you're saying. And so I think one thing I do with my students is I have them break their song down like a monologue before we even sing a note. Look at it as a monologue. What does it mean? What does this mean to you? Who are you singing to? What's it about? Breaking it down, doing that homework. So pick a good song, not because it's by the composer, but you sing it well. You guys are gonna hate hearing this. I love when kids mess up. And you wanna know why? Because I love seeing how they react to it. So kids, when they mess up in auditions, I feel bad a little bit, because of course they've worked hard and then they're like, I screwed it up. I love when someone's voice cracks, they forget the words, and then they just rock star the rest of it. And I'm like, that's the kid I want on stage, because I could literally make a laundry list of things that have happened to me on stage. I've lost my skirt. I've lost my wig. My tap shoe's fallen off. I tripped. I got a bloody nose. I fell down the stairs. I peed my pants. I've done everything on stage, right? But how are you going to react? How's the kid going to react when they forget their line? Or how's the student going to react when someone doesn't make their entrance? How's the student going to react when they have to get out of a scene because someone missed a line? How are they going to react when their costume's falling off in the middle of a dance? You know, and I think you see that. You can see so much from just the way they handle themselves. So that's like in terms of the actual audition. And then callbacks, I think it's doing your homework, and I think it's doing all your homework. So I think with younger students, I'll use Annie, for instance, because that was my first show, and I was the one-headed cartwheeling orphan. I think it was on my resume for a long time, actually. Do your homework, and not just for the part you want. So I see kids often who really feel like, I got called back for Annie and Pepper and Molly and orphan number 6, and I only want Annie, so I'm only gonna do my work for Annie. And then they get into the callback and they're good at Annie, and that was good. But there's also, you know, Joe and Schmo who could be Annie, and they're better. So now you've put yourself in a position that you have no advantage in these other characters, where you could have been Pepper or Tessie, but now you're a hot mess. You didn't look at the sides. You didn't even put time into that. And I think it's something that's really important to do, is to give every role you're called back for the same amount of effort, because you never know what's going to happen in there, ever. That's good, yeah?
I like it. I like it. Well, I want to give some time. I have a couple more questions here, but I would love to, I'm going to unpin you, and I'm going to open it up to, that didn't do anything for me. Okay, cool. Here we go. I'd love to open it up to audience questions. If anyone has a question for Miss Charna, just wave at me and I can unmute you, and we would love to, oh my gosh, we have so many people here. I would love to unmute you and hear what question you have. Does anyone have a question?
Anybody? See, I talk too much and then I answer it all. I like sushi and pug dogs.
Oh, look it. Maddie has a question.
I do. Can you talk about your Amazon purchases for shows and how well that goes?
I actually can, and I think people will find this actually amusing. So sometimes thanks Maddie, sometimes when you take on a lot, when you decide to have, 4 kids and run a conservatory and be an artistic director and direct and choreograph shows, and then, all the things, you make mistakes. I really like to do everything. So I was like, I'm going to order, I can't remember which the first show was, but I'm like, I'll order that, I'll do that, I'll get this. Yeah, I got that, got the costume, got the prop. Okay, Katie Jo, get the program, okay? I had a streak at Spotlight, guys, where I would order things on Amazon, props for shows. And I believe the very first one was for Once Upon a Mattress. I don't remember. But I'm too busy. This is always the chicken, yes. Okay, so this is a lesson for all of my teachers here. Like, just pay attention and slow down sometimes. Because sometimes we, go. I ordered a rubber chicken for Once Upon a Mattress, and it's a very funny scene, and he bonks him on the head and he pulls it off, and I was going to get there just in time, and it came, and it was like 4 inches long. It was the tiniest rubber chicken we'd ever seen, and it was really funny until I also ordered a chair that I thought was coming that was for a dollhouse. I also ordered, I don't even know, far too many things that came miniaturized. So I may also specialize in musicals for ants and purchasing props for them. resume bullet point.
Yeah, please put that.
Can I answer your question, Maddie?
Yes. Are there any other questions? Anything else? Oh, Ron.
Yes, Ronald. Hi, Ron.
Hi. I could listen to you talk like all day. I love it. You're so insightful. This is just kind of like a fun question, because I know back in my day, my fair share of Spotlight shows, and I've had some pretty amusing things happen backstage. And I was just wondering if you had any funny backstage stories from Spotlight.
Oh my stars! From Spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
Spotlight, yeah.
So I'm trying to think back.
about that sparkly dress.
Well, that wasn't really backstage, I guess, sparkly dress story. I think I'm trying to go back through shows. Where was it that something like this is not me backstage, but I'm going to talk about a funny episode thing that happened in a final dress rehearsal.
Sure.
So this is as a director, and I probably did have to go backstage because it was just literally a giant mess of things happening. So this was Sideshow. Mm-hmm. And in Sideshow, kids played multiple characters because the show is a smaller show. And the costume changes in that show were so unbelievably difficult. So we were going into
Dana.
Shoot, I can't remember which song. Jenny, where was it? Or Maddie, where was it where they were all in the tuxedos? Shoot, I don't know. Anyway, Maggie Giddon, who you all probably know and love, and is one of the hardest working kids in musical theater that I think. She had to change from being half man, half woman. If you guys know that show, she had this crazy face thing and all this costume to just be a regular Ready to Play. Thank you, Jeffrey Lindner. We're going into Ready to Play. So Maggie comes out. We've been trying to time the entrance, and she didn't want to miss her entrance. So she came out in the vamp with half the shirt on and a leg out, full presenting. And then we were like, no, it's too soon. And she was like, oh, shoot. And then she goes backstage. Then she comes out 8 counts later. She's got the hair and then the tie, but no shoe. And she's wearing someone else's pants, so they don't fit her, but she's full out. And then I'm like, Maggie, it's too soon. And I'm still crying, laughing at this point. I'm not mad at anybody. And then by the time she finally comes out, she was just like, forget it. She's dancing in the wrong costume. She can't sing. I mean, I was on the floor of the Curtis Theater laughing so hard. The costume changes in that show were crazy. Wig changes, things like that. I've sent people on stage with zippers undone. I've had things fall. Like, Parker in Once Upon a Mattress, the chicken fell apart. He bonked the chicken and the head came off and went flying across the stage. And I think things like that, because I'm usually in the house, backstage I is usually just like, yay, friends. And it's great. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've had kids get sick, things like that, but that's not funny. I mean, I have some funny ones from growing up, Ron, from me being a performer. I'm going to tell the best story about when I missed a cue. Okay. It's the only cue in my entire life I've ever missed, because once you miss a cue, you never miss one again.
Oh yeah.
I was doing South Pacific, and in South Pacific, I was just one of the girls, the Wash That Man girlies, and you're not in a lot. So there's a lot of downtime in between your scenes. And I was backstage and we were playing cards, which I know a lot of you do when you're backstage. And me and my friend Jen were just playing cards. And we hear everybody come off stage. And we look over and we're like, wait, did you? And they're like, you guys just completely missed the entire scene. We were not even on stage. And the fear of am I going to get fired, number one, but also the hilarity that the entire scene went on without either of us on stage. I'm like, who did my dance partner dance with? He's like, myself. Just danced myself. Just did a solo. Yeah, that was a tough one. I've had crazy things happen in theater. I tell all my students I'm going to write a book one day about all the crazy stuff that's gone on, but that's what makes it fun. All those stories. Yeah, for sure.
I think it's safe to say that behind the scenes at anything at Spotlight, we have definitely had our fair share of laughs. I have one question. I know we're running out of time. I have one question in the comments from Braden.
Yeah.
He says, what is your favorite musical you've ever directed or done?
Oh, I was hoping someone would ask this. So I have categories, right? What's my favorite musical I've ever done, directed, or just the one I want to see? So my favorite show I've ever directed would probably have to be, it's tied for Sideshow and Addams Family. Those are my tied for directing. Sideshow was a really, really emotional show, and I really enjoyed it. I love the music. But Addams Family just was the 180 for me. And the funniness in that show and the silliness, I love it. So I tied Addams Family and Sideshow for directing. My favorite show I have ever been in is Crazy for You. I was Patsy, who's the glorified ensemble girl, when I was, I think, a freshman in college. And I learned more from those people on that production team. And I think I lost 20 pounds dancing in that show. There's so much tap and so many props and so many fun things to get to work with. And I truly enjoyed being in that show. My favorite shows to see or listen to are definitely Ragtime and Children of Eden. Those are my two go-to. I could listen to those songs on repeat for years. I love that music. I love the feeling behind it and the story behind both of those shows. Good question, Braden. Thanks.
I love that. Oh my gosh, we have another question. Okay, last one. I hate to mess or miss any of them. How do you balance everything? How do you make everything work while you're facilitating all these different jobs? Mind you, she also has little kiddos at home too.
Which I'm like waiting for them to make an appearance. You guys have no idea. If you've ever been on a call with me, usually one's sitting on my lap and the other one's like the little creeper face in the back, like, hey friends. My husband's playing with them upstairs right now, so they're good. It's a challenge. Who asked that question? Kaylee?
Kaylee, yes.
Yeah. Hi, love. It's a challenge. I think the biggest thing is to know you can't do everything. So I had to really, I love what I do so much that especially early in my career, it was like, Charna, can you do this? Charna, can you do that? Please, can you direct this? Can you choreograph that? Can you teach 9 classes of yeah, yes, me. And then I had a realization where I was like, I just can't do it all. And I have to understand that I might miss out on some opportunities, but that just means someone else is going to get to have an opportunity. With family, and those of you who know me, I will say it a million times over, my husband is a saint. He is so helpful and so supportive. And I think it's finding that balance with who's helping where and scheduling. When we are in regular days at OSHA, I'm at school pretty late, so he does all the evening stuff at home with the kids. I think it's also having a village. So, we have people at Spotlight I can rely on. I have family friends who I can rely on. Like, I can't get to, the school to pick up Rue. Can someone grab her? I can't, it's just a village. And I think everyone has those people in their lives, and don't feel like you have to do it all. Right. So I still have trouble with it, as if Katie's still listening, giving her the musical this year is the best and hardest thing I've ever done. I sat in my office with her and said, I'm going to be a crazy person and I'm going to want to come in and sit next to you and dance. And she's like, it's fine. But I think understanding that you can't do everything and then prioritizing things. There are times that I have to say, I can't come to 9 million rehearsals because I want to go to my son's baseball game, or I really want to be able to commit to doing this on this day, my daughter's dance class, I can only have these many rehearsals, and being confident in that. And I think, Kaylee, because you're younger, a good thing for you to realize, and you're going to realize this soon too at OSHA next year, you can't do everything, so it trickles down from being an adult all the way down to a kid. You can't do everything. And as much, especially my overachievers, I feel like theater people are like that in general. They just want to do everything. Sometimes you have to be like, okay, I'm only going to do 5 musicals and not 9, or I'm going to take private voice this semester or this year and 1 dance class. And then next year I'll switch it around, because taking care of yourself and having downtime is really, really important too. It's really important to take care of yourself. So I think that's something I still try and work at. Those of you that know me, I can be quiet and sit for about 5 minutes and then I need something else to do. So everyone's different, but I think it's a village. I think it's your family and your friends and your people and the people you work with helping you along. Yeah.
I love it. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you, Charna, so much.
Welcome. This was so fun.
It's so fun. Oh, I'm so thrilled about this. Let's do it every day. And thank you all for coming and spending your afternoon with us. This was such a treat. Charna, anything final that you want to say?
No, maybe just, I can't wait to see you all again. I know for those of you who are like Spotlight families and people and teachers, I think we're moving in a direction and we're getting there. And I know I've had a lot of great conversations with Katie Jo and Elise about what we're going to be providing for our students. And I think we've got some great, exciting opportunities coming up, which we're going to be announcing soon, which will be great. I think just hang in there and try and see the good. I know there are going to be days that it's overwhelming and it's frustrating, but find the moment in that day of, oh, look at this. I didn't get to spend this much time with my sister before, or I didn't get to cook every night at home with my family before, or whatever it may be. And I just can't wait to see you all once we have those doors back open. I want you all there with your tap shoes and your smiles and your awesomeness.
I love it. I love it. Well, everyone, this is just the first of 4 leadership speaker series that we have coming this month, all free and all on Friday, Free Friday. Next week, we have Elise Jackson-Lamm, who's on here. She's the founder, one of the founders of Yorba in the Spotlight, and is also our financial director, and so many other things too. So she is coming on next week. Don't miss out. We would love to see all your faces again. There's going to be so much to learn. And I'm really excited. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you hopefully in person soon.